which is pretty much at the time of the Holocaust. The building of the second temple had been halted by this king, and many Jews were demoralised. They felt Yahweh has abandoned us. So, into this. Next player on stage is Vashti. Now, our elder Jason had a bit of a chat about Vashti before, so I'll take it from here. Now, if we read verses 9 to 15, we see she's giving a feast. Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Nehuman, Bisita, Habonah, Bigtah, and Avakta, Zephyr, and Caracas, the 7 chamberlains administered in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the royal crown, to show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by the chamberlains, and therefore the king was wroth, and his anger burned in him. Then the king said to the wise men who knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all who knew decree and judgment. And next unto him was Kashina, Shatar, Admata, Tarshish, Meres, Mastina, and Romachem, the 7 princes of Paras and Media, who saw the king's face and sat first in the kingdom. And he asked, what shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the decree, for as much as she has not done the bidding of the king by the chamberlains? Let's look a little bit further into this lady. I guarantee you, she's not very nice. Very anti-Semitic, she harboured a hatred for the Jews. And when you look at her, and you think, oh, she's refused to come into the king, and I'm not obeying him, and you think, yeah, turn up feminist, standing up to the king, refusing to appear naked. Yay, you go, girl. We'll just overlook the fact that she made a Jewish slave's work on Shabbat naked for further humiliation, shall we? But at a partial level, you'd think, oh yes, she's got it all together. At a Remez level? Think again. So, here's what I found doing my research. I came across a little piece by Rabbi Mendel Kalmanson. Vashti wasn't a feminist at all, she was a fraud. She wasn't liberated at all. She wasn't a proud woman who couldn't countenance exhibiting herself for the gratification of piggish men. She was a fraud. First, she had posed in the past, clad in just a crown. Secondly, she would have gladly done it again if it was not for an ugly brooch that covered her body. Thirdly, she had her Jewish maids sport birthday suits when they worked to humiliate them. 3 strikes, she's out. No, Vashti is no feminist. She viewed herself exactly as the men of her time did, as a beauty object, not a person. She never went public looking less than picture perfect. Her self-worth hung limply on her many clothing racks, with some extra doses squeezed into tubes of skin cream. Her level of confidence was weighed daily by its scale and was dictated more often than that by a mirror. She had reduced herself to a human mannequin. She would rather be caught dead than ugly. Unfortunately, she was caught both. Now we read Esther chapter 2. Let's meet the good guys. Go on to chapter 2. After all these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was assuaged, he remembered Vashti and what he had done and what was decreed against her. Then the king's servants administered unto him, let there be sought for the king young virgins fair to look on. Let the king appoint officers in all the provinces, that's really good, of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the castle, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let these ointments be given them. And let the maiden that pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. There was a certain Jew in Shushan the castle whose name was Mordecai, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, the Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives that had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Yehuda, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maiden was of beautiful form and fair to look on. And when her mother and father were dead, Mordecai took her for his own daughter. And so it came to pass when the king's commandment and his decree was published, and the many maidens were gathered into Shushan the castle, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was taken into the king's house to the custody of Hegai, keeper of women. The maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her ornaments with her portions. And the 7 maidens who were meet to be given her at the king's house, and he advanced her and her maidens to the best place in the house of the women. Just leave that there, let's talk about it. The good gods. Mordecai, his name means contrition, bitter, bruising. He's the guardian of his brother's child Esther, or more correctly, Hadassah. In Persian, Esther means star. And her other name, which is concealed throughout the story except for this one place, Hadassah means myrtle. Where else do we see myrtle? Sukkot. It's part of the lulav. The myrtle represents sweet smelling, which indicates good deeds but no learning. The myrtle also represents the eyes, or enlightenment of the body. Well was she named. So in this chapter we're seeing that the king wants to take a wife after executing Vashti. And so as we see the scripture saying, let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the castle, to the house of the women, under the custody of Hegai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women. Brothers and sisters, this wasn't a request for a job application, this was conscription. This wasn't an option. If you were young and beautiful and virginal, you were taken. They were taken to the castle. So imagine Mordecai's fear and his trepidation. This young woman, he brought up in the ways of Torah, taken against her will. It was death to disobey the king. And so Esther finds herself in the palace of the Gentile king, known for his cruelty and ruthlessness. When I was researching this, I was put in mind of Jane Seymour, the third wife of Henry VIII. She came after the beheaded one. I think I'd be a bit scared too. Wisely, Esther conceals her true identity from the king, also in Mordecai's instructions. So he has no idea that Esther is Jewish. But here is our first lesson as Netzarim men and women living in a Gentile world, walking our Torah in it. Esther is frightened. She's a Jewish woman living in the seat of debauchery in the palace of the king. We are told that now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, that means big joy, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her from his daughter, was come to go in unto the king. She required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed, and Esther obtained favour in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. So let's have a look at this. Rather than be dazzled and overcome by excessive jewellery, rich clothing and food, she takes what's offered her only. She continues to observe Shabbat. She continues to eat kosher. How does she do this? Smart thinking. She has 7 maidens, yes? What she does is rotates the days on which they attended her, so a different maiden served her on Shabbat. Therefore, they're given the impression she doesn't work on the other days as well. Smart. But a major Christian must feel in a place of revulsion, debauchery. Everything that the Torah stands against, she's in. She probably feels tempted to loudly lament and oppose the debauchery of the palace. She chooses not to do that. She quietly goes about observing Torah and keeping covenants in spite of the revulsion she felt. I don't know about you, but I saw a lot of revulsion and outcry come out on Facebook when that movie was released, 50 Shades of Grey. And a person boldly declared, I'm boycotting that. We should boycott that if she had something going on about boycotting it. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to go and see the movie, so I'm not going to boycott it, but I have a take on 50 Shades of Grey.
No.
There we go. So there's a good lesson for us. Just quietly go about your business. I didn't go and see the movie. I'm not going to go and see the movie, but I didn't have to declaim it. Now, this poor lady is trying to repulse the king. She doesn't want to stay in the palace. She wants to go home. But she used nothing to enhance her physical beauty. Matter of fact, some commentaries tell us her complexion developed a greenish pallor, like seasickness, through living in such revolt and revulsion. But her inner beauty was showing through. It couldn't be helped. She was drawn close to Yahweh. She was observing Shabbat. She was eating kosher. She was observing the Torah. Obedience to his Torah made her attractive to all who saw her, including the king. And this is backed up because you look in the Mishlei, Proverbs 31:30. Charm is deceitful, beauty is vain. But a woman who fears Yahweh is to be praised. Now I'm going to back this up because I've got another quote here from Gold in my ear. I love it. Not being beautiful was a true blessing. Not being beautiful forced me to develop my inner resources. The pretty girl has a handicap to overcome. I think Vashti learned that the hard way, don't you? Yeah. Yes, you could argue that Yahweh had brought her to the palace for his purpose, but Esther had submitted herself to Yahweh, listening to and obeying Mordecai's teachings and observing the Shabbat. Of course, there is a time and place to declare, yes, we are true Israelites. There is a time where it is prudent to conceal such a truth, such as putting yourself and other members of the covenant at risk. Yahweh does countenance undercover operations, as we see here. He's very good at infiltrating, actually. I'm learning this. But that doesn't mean we compromise ourselves, does it, sisters? We don't become double agents. Now, if we look into chapter 3, here comes our villain. Haman. After all these things, did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate, bowed down and prostrated themselves before Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not down, nor prostrated himself before him. Then the king's servants that were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, why transgress you the king's commandment? Well, it said that Mordecai wore an idol around his neck. Haman wore an idol around his neck. And Mordecai would not bow down to it. Now it came to pass, when they spoke daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, so that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them he was a Jew. Look, blew his cover. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not down nor prostrated himself before him, then was Haman full of wrath. But it seemed contemptible in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had made known to him the people of Mordecai. So Haman comes up with this idea. He sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. So Brothers and sisters, here we see the first attempt at a final solution. Holocaust. Destruction of the Jews. So you can imagine the terrible fear that was on them. They were going to be utterly wiped out. It's gone from dark to darker, hasn't it? First they're taken captive in exile. The building of the second temple is halted. Where's Yahweh? So when this decree goes out to, yes, we're going to destroy the Jews. We're going to go ahead with our final solution here. Mordecai's in terrible distress at this point. He's in sackcloth, he's fasting, he's wailing, as are all the Jews throughout the provinces. Now, because he's in sackcloth, he can't go into the king's palace. But Esther's maids tell her of the terrible decree. So she hasn't been near the king in 30 days, so she didn't know about the decree. So Mordecai's message and request to Esther on behalf of her people would have been unthinkable at first. You want me to go to the king without a summons? Well, ladies, here's where we separate the princesses from the queens. So initially, she tries to excuse herself. So we read here. Just bring it up for you. All the king's servants. He gave him a copy of the writing decree that was given out in Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, to charge her that she should go into the king, make supplication unto him, to make request before him for her people. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. And then Esther spoke unto Hathach and gave him a message unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one decree for him, that he shall be put to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden sceptre, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in to the king these 30 days. So understandably, human response, she excused herself. Hey Morty, what are you thinking? I could get killed. Are you mad? Sisters, do we do the same thing when we're confronted with a request from our king? Yahweh says, it's time to pray. Oh, I can't. I've got all these kids and I have to get work. Besides,